We are so excited to bring you guys the video from the National Naval Aviation Museum that we promised last week. Though this is going to be a very short video in comparison to the time that we actually spent there, but we are so excited, and Fred is here with us here today to tell you guys a little bit about the history.
The Blue Angels actually started in 1946. They were the first precision flight team, or demonstration team if you want to call it that. And it was started by ex-World War II advanced instructor pilots in the F6F Hellcat. Of course, today they fly the F-18 Super Hornet. Down in Pensacola is where they're based. It just so happens we were going down to Pensacola because I hadn't seen the museum in 20 years and Kristie hadn't seen it. Ever. So we show up a little bit after 9. I'm going, why is this parking lot full? And then we find out that they're going to do a free air show. And we went right up to the front line. We got incredible shots. It was really a great experience, one that you don't always get at every air show because you're kind of far away from everything. But it was really cool. Hope you enjoy the video.
Thanks for watching.
What Fred just shared sets the stage for everything you're about to see, because we didn't just stumble into a museum that day. We walked into over a century of American aviation history. And for a retired pilot like Fred, this wasn't just a tourist stop. This was personal. The moment we turned onto that base and caught our first glimpse of an FA-18 Super Hornet sitting on the flight line, I looked at Fred and I could see it on his face. This was his world. And then they took off. What you're watching are the Blue Angels, the United States Navy's flight demonstration squadron, performing their precision aerial maneuvers for the Pensacola community on opening day of their season. And here's something that gives me the chills every time I think about it. The very first aircraft the Blue Angels ever flew back in 1946 was the F6F Hellcat, the same plane Fred was just telling you about. From that aircraft to this, over 75 years of excellence in the skies. I don't even have the words, so I'll just let you watch.
And if you guys have liked our content up to here and you guys want to follow us along on our journey, Skyways to Highways, headed from Florida to Alaska, be sure
to click and subscribe because Goldie's going to check it every other day. See you later.
And then after the air show, we made our way inside. And the very first thing that greets you is a tribute to the two men who started it all, Eugene Eli and Glenn Curtis. In 1910 and 1911, these two individuals demonstrated for the very first time that an aircraft could take off and land on a ship. That single act of courage and innovation is what launched an entire branch of military aviation. As you move through the museum, the history unfolds chronologically. The World War I section displays original recruitment imagery from that era and how they communicated urgency and patriotism during wartime. And then you turn a corner and walk directly into a full reenactment of the moment the U.S. Marines became the first to raise the American flag on foreign soil. The detail in these exhibits is extraordinary, and it doesn't feel like a museum. It feels like a window. We paused for lunch at the historic Cubi bar Café, which, by the way, is an experience in itself. The original Cubi bar was located at Naval Air Station Cubi Point in the Philippines and was legendary among naval aviators for decades. On the walls are plaques honoring real squadrons and their service. I stopped at this one, Attack Squadron 185, the Nighthawks, January 17th through February 28th, 1991. During that period alone, they completed over 500 combat missions. 500. Oh yeah, and I ordered a Cuban sandwich and sat with that for a moment. I wanted to pause here for just a moment because if you are watching this and you have never been to this museum, I need you to put it on your list. It is completely free to enter, free. For a collection of this magnitude, that is genuinely remarkable. This next exhibit stopped me completely, and honestly, it's one of those things you almost walk past until you really look at it. This transparent model of the USS Kearsarge CV-33 was built at the Puget Sound Navy Yard in 1945, not to look impressive from the outside, but to reveal something most people never see: the hundreds of compartments inside an aircraft carrier where over 3,000 men lived and worked. The main hangar floor is simply breathtaking. You're standing among actual aircraft from some of the most pivotal moments in American military history. Surrounding you are aircraft bearing the markings of real squadrons: Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, each one with a story, each one flown by someone's father, grandfather, husband. A short film produced exclusively for the museum by the History Channel tells the story of naval aviation training in the Great Lakes and the aircraft that were recovered from the bottom of Lake Michigan, where they crashed during World War II carrier qualification training. Between 1942 and 1945, approximately 15,000 pilots trained to take off and land on makeshift aircraft carriers on Lake Michigan. About 130 aircraft were lost in the process, and some of those planes rested undisturbed on the lakebed for decades. The museum began recovering them in the early 1990s. Two of them, an F4F Wildcat and an SBD Dauntless, are preserved right here, displayed exactly as they were found. It's haunting and beautiful at the same time. And then you walk into the main atrium, and there they are, actual Blue Angels, FA-18 Hornets, suspended from the ceiling in full formation. I did a full 360 just trying to take it all in. If you want to get even closer to that feeling, the museum also offers flight simulators that are absolutely worth experiencing, especially if you want to bring the kiddos with you. The newest additions are two MaxFlight 360 simulators, full motion, 360-degree pitch, roll, and spin. This section of the museum is one I want to make sure we honor properly because it's easy to walk past and not fully absorb what you're reading. This entire hall is dedicated to the enlisted naval aviation pilots, the petty officers, the non-commissioned officers who formed. As that wall reads, the backbone of naval aviation. That plaque was presented to this museum in 1968, dedicated to more than 5,000 men of the U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard who trained and served as enlisted pilots. These were not commissioned officers. These were working men who flew in defense of this country and whose contributions shaped the entire development of naval aviation. The Naval Aviation Centennial Painting, commissioned to commemorate 100 years of naval aviation from 1911 to 2011. Every carrier, every era of aircraft, from the earliest biplanes and U.S. Navy airships all the way to modern nuclear carriers with helicopters and jets flying overhead. 100 years of Americans taking to the sky in service of this country. All of it captured in a single frame. And this was supposed to be a rest day. And if you ever find yourself on the Florida Panhandle, put this museum on your itinerary. It is free, it is extraordinary, and it will stay with you long after you leave. Next up, you guys, we are back on the road and pushing further toward Alaska. Every mile is teaching us something new, and we cannot wait to share it with you. Hit subscribe so you don't miss a single stop. We'll see you in the next one with Skyways to Highways, 1 mile at a time.